I'm Spencer Gore, and you're listening to Gold with Gore, the podcast where I speak to extraordinary individuals to uncover the stories behind their success. Each episode offers exclusive insights into the journeys of high-performing, gold medal-winning mindset guests. Today I'm joined by Sam Malins, CEO of Reactant Fire Suppression and the Dunmay Group, as well as being chairman of Bitter Dubai. Sam has a fascinating story, having built upon the family business his father started in skip hire, transforming it into a multi-million-pound empire. He recently expanded operations into the Middle East and is known for his leadership, resilience and entrepreneurial mindset. In this episode, we'll dive into Sam's journey from the family business to international experience, his experiences leading multiple companies and his views on leadership, discipline and strategic growth, as well as looking at mindset. Hi Sam, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us from day one of well, even before day one of taking over Dunmo, but from how you got into business to where you are now.
Morning Spencer, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite. Right, go back to my early days. I think I was always selling something. I think it was the challenge of making money.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but money in itself doesn't drive me.
Yeah.
I think it's the challenge of making it and the challenge of what you have to do to get it. So I think in my early days, I remember in the earliest days, my mum used to sell pies. So I used to go to the local farm shows. I used to buy loads of drinks from the cash and carry, and I used to sit on the side of her stand. And then that was probably in my single digit years. And then through school, a friend of my dad's, he had a friend that used to work for One-to-One, so I used to buy mobile phones off him and sell them to my friends in school. And then from 14 I had a mobile disco for 10 years. So obviously before I could drive, mum and dad used to take me around and I used to earn my 100 quid to start with, which went up to 200 or 300 quid by the time I finished. So I've always wanted to earn money, and money ultimately gives you freedom, doesn't it? So to have, my freedom costs a couple of quid.
Exactly.
I like cars and stuff like that. So that's the challenge coming hand in hand, and that was kind of through mine.
You said that it's not about the money. For me, and I've spoken to a few people about this, it's almost the buzz of getting that sale. I look at it as a negotiation. It's I've got something I want you to have because I think it's going to help you, but you don't necessarily know that yet. So I've got to convince you that it's the best thing for you to have. And when you get someone to say yes, it's that buzz of doing that. And
exactly, it's that connection of the yes. Isn't it? And you think, wow, I mean, we've just won a big opportunity this week, and 5 years in the making. I've been going after it, and it's just. And I don't even think I'm just not bothered about the monetary.
No, exactly.
It's the challenge of it's a global business, and I wanted them as a customer. So so I think that was my early days. My first job out of school was working at Stansted Airport, and I worked at Extreme Motorsports in Harlow because I loved cars. And then I went to work with Dad. Dad had Dunmo Skips. He's also got a roofing company that he runs himself. But the skips his cousin ran. He bought it in the early 90s, and basically his cousin ran it for him. And in 2000, this was around 2000, they had a bit of a disagreement. They went separate ways, so there was a sort of an opening to run it. I went in there. Drivers didn't like me.
Did you hesitate about going in there, or was it something that you were just like, it's a good opportunity, I'm going to take it?
It's a good question. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I look back and I look at young people now, I think, I feel so sorry for you. But obviously we were all there once, and they're navigating their life. So I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I was kind of, I was doing the discos at the weekend, and I just didn't really know. So I went there for a few months, and the drivers just ran rings around me. All old, I just remember. You can picture it now, them running rings around me, and I didn't really enjoy it. And what I wanted to do was sell cars. So I grew up with a lot of older people around me, so I was always down the pub and down there. So I was down the pub, and a friend said, come and sell cars at my car garage. So I went and done that for about 1.5 years, working for him. Again, that was when I got my knack of sales. So that was when I started to understand that selling just come naturally. And I didn't know that. Carl, who I worked for, actually told me. He said, you do realise the reason we're selling all these cars, don't you? I said, yeah, because people need the cars. They're like, no, because you can really sell. Right, okay. So
what would you say that is? What defines someone that can sell and can't sell? Obviously you get the sale, but what is it that you do differently to someone else? Is there any sort of silver bullet that you can pass on, or is it just something that you've built up over time?
I think it's empathy.
Yeah.
For me, obviously you get great salespeople that just hammer it home. Yeah. For me, it's about putting myself exactly on the level of the person that I'm talking to. It doesn't matter who it is. And I just match the person I'm talking to, and I think that's, for me, I think that's what I do. I can just be on that same. And that's when you're solving their problem rather than trying to sell them something. Exactly. The sale happens as a result rather than because of. Exactly. I think that's why I didn't know what I was doing. And then that was when I made my first biggest mistake of business, which I will never forget. It was probably my biggest lesson. It was they can do it, so I can do it. So I thought to myself, well, Carl can do it. I must be able to do this. So I negotiated with him that I got a couple of 3 spaces on the front of the car lot, and then I was buying some of his part exchanges with my own money and selling them around the back. And we negotiated all. I was going to still sell his cars, but then I had my own cars. My dad actually got me an overdraft, £20,000 overdraft, to go and buy some cars with. So we started up SMM Cars. That was, I think I was about 18, 19 then. And I remember getting the overdraft and saying to Carl, right, I'm going to go to your guys. I'm going to go to Robin. I'm going to go to someone else. I'm going to go and buy some cars. And, no, you're not. That's where I buy my cars from. And I just remember the feeling was,
it dawned on you.
Dawned on me that this is not going to be as easy as I thought. So now I've got to go and fend for myself. And so I then went to the auctions. I was buying cars too expensive. I couldn't sell them very well. So then I ended up traveling around the country trying to buy cars, and it was just a big lesson of someone that's been doing it for a long time, has got their network. He's got his sources, and it's not about selling the cars. It's about how you buy the cars. Right. Well, obviously a bit of both. So that was...
It's those 10,000 hours. You do anything for 10,000 hours of purposeful practice, you become an expert. You don't get those 10,000 hours overnight.
No, you don't. No. And I think, as my dad always said, you obviously knew everything when you were younger. And as you get older, you really realise that you didn't. So you're like, there's fast forward about a year and a half. I had minus £20,000, and I think I had 1 car left. So that was a lesson in life, and I think I learned a lot in that experience. And that was a time when we sat down as a family. I think it was about 2004, and basically the Skips wasn't earning any money, and I didn't have any money to buy cars left. So I had to make a change, and we decided that I can carry on running the Skips, and go and make something of that, or go a separate way. So that was when I made that decision, 2004, and that was when it started.
And how big were the Skips at that stage? How many people were working there? What sort of size was it?
It was about 8. There was 2 girls in the office, one that answered the phone, one that did the accounts, and then I think we had 5 trucks and 1 or 2 yard staff. And
this is what, 2004, did you say?
2004.
And how many trucks and staff have you got there now, roughly?
We've got 50 trucks, and we're 170 odd staff, with the yard labour agency employed about 140.
The reason I asked that is twofold. One, I see your trucks everywhere when I'm driving around in Chelmsford, literally every day, whether it's because it's on my mind now, but I see them everywhere. And two, what journey it is, 20 years, and you've gone from 8 to 170 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll come on to that. You mentioned something there about a lesson you learned was thinking you could do it just because someone else could do it. Do you think that's a good lesson or a bad lesson?
I think it was a wake-up call to think that it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the lesson, is just because they can look like they do it, you know. I think on the you mentioned at the end of Tim's podcast, it was the swan.
Yeah. I always think
we all make this look very easy, don't we?
Yeah.
But actually, it's really not.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably happening with Carl. He was probably running around, getting everything done, and I'm looking at him thinking, he comes in the office at 9 and he leaves at 4, and I'm doing all the work.
Yeah,
you know? And it's not the case. And I think that was the biggest lesson, biggest early lesson, and that was when I realised that it's gonna.
The reason I ask that is because I'm a big believer. It certainly works for me. Is I'll look at someone and see what they're doing and think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah. But I also understand they've put in a lot of hard work to get there. So I think it's twofold. That's why I asked, is it a good lesson or a bad lesson? I think it's good that
I believe
you can achieve whatever you want.
Yeah.
But you've got to appreciate there's a lot of hard work goes.
I think that was the lesson it grew into.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it back then. But now you're right. I mean, it's a big part of our success, mine and Ed's, is just, you know, idolising other companies, other people, and, you know, even in my early days, I used to pick people when I was going through really tough situations, and I'd just be thinking, you know, I think Richard Branson was one, Alan Sugar was one, and I just remember thinking, what would they do in my situation right now? Not what Sam would do, because he's probably going to mess it up. Yeah. What would they do? And that what kept me straight in some of the really difficult decisions I've had to make over the years. Yeah, I've done some work with a American. I was just over in Miami last week, and he's a billionaire now. And I've met him a few times. I've done a podcast with him, actually. But even before I got to know him reasonably well, he would say, you don't have to meet your mentors for them to be mentors. You can read their books. You can learn from what they've done. And that sort of reminded me there that you can think, well, what would this person do in this situation? And if you've read their books and done your homework, you've got a decent idea of what they do. It's not definite, but it's a really good way of looking at stuff, I think. You've run the Skip company, or that 20-year window. What are the biggest successes and failures you've had or challenges you've had in that period? I think one of the challenges, I remember, I'll give you one of the reasons why we started Firewood, other than obviously having the concept of an idea. I remember we got the business rolling on Skips, and two things. One, I'm thinking in my head, going back to my early years, in my head I'm an entrepreneur, but I just had a Skip. I was one business, so I wasn't on job. Did that play on your mind then? It did, Did it? Yeah. That's interesting. Because I always wanted multiple businesses. Yeah. I don't know why. I think it was because I like the stress. I like spinning the plates, and I think it's a challenge. There's a lot of business owners, and I don't know, but the word entrepreneur is questionable now. But definitely. I think that was back in 20 years ago. It wasn't questionable. It meant what it clearly meant. But I wanted multiple businesses, and it was that coupled with, I remember fairly vividly, I was in the kitchen and I was having a row with my dad over a few things that had gone on in the Skips, and we ended it something. We couldn't get ahead. I was saying you couldn't be doing this without me, and he was saying, well, you couldn't be doing it without me. And it was like, can we just agree that we couldn't be doing it without each other? We need to work together. We need to work together. And I think within that argument, he said something like, you try starting a business from scratch like I did, and I absolutely, respect where he's come from, but it just stuck with me. And I thought, I've got to start a business. Because in my early days, a lot of my drive was my dad. I know that's my drive, and I know that's been a little bit around how the last couple of years has affected me, because my drive was my dad saying, I'm not so sure you can do that, son. And I'm like,
I'm going to prove you wrong.
without swearing.
Yeah.
Watch me. So when he said that in a throwaway sort of comment in the argument, I thought, I've got to do it. So when Jamie come to me and said about this, the fire idea, I said, right, let's start something from scratch. I'm going to tick this off.
Yeah.
So that was 2010. We come up with a name, started a limited company, and then in 2013 we employed our first person. We played with it for a couple of years. We were still growing skips, and so in the middle of that, so we started Firewood. We then brought Cartaway in Chelmsford. Yeah. So we doubled the site. Skips, by the time we left, Dunmo was doing 2.5 million turnover. Yeah. In 2011ish. Yeah. And then in 2012, I think we did 5 odd million. Yeah. We had to double the size of it because we suddenly had rent. Yeah. So that was a massive challenge for us. We were still mid-20s. Yeah. Was it? Were we? 2000 and 12 years ago. So Ed was 25, I was 27, 28, something like that. So we were mid-20s, literally just hustling like mad, trying to get this business off the ground. And that was a huge challenge. I think that was 2012 was when we talk about later with the mental health side. 2012, we moved the business over the Queen's Jubilee, the 4-day weekend. And we started God knows what time on the Friday morning and finished God knows what time on the Monday night. And it absolutely ripped me to shreds. I remember getting to the pub on the Monday night and just passing out. Yeah. I was gone. Yeah. I literally picked up my beer off the bar and I fell off the chair, and that was the first time I realised.
So when you say move the business?
So move the business from Dunmo
to the Chelmsford site.
The new recycling plant. Yeah. There was me, Ed, the crane driver, Matt, who was an absolute legend for the 4 days. Yeah. I think there might have been one other guy. There's 4 of us moved this huge recycling plant in 4 days and set it back up in Chelmsford. And I don't even know how we did it. Yeah. But we had to do it. We didn't have a choice. Yeah. So, that
just
that
exhaustion.
Was the first time I felt at the limit of being a human, I suppose. I'd hit my limit. Yeah. And I needed to regenerate after that. I had to take some time off because I couldn't do anything. My brain had gone.
So your coping, I know we're going to come on to this, but your coping mechanism then was to go and have a beer and relax, chill out.
Yeah, basically,
And that was how you... Yeah. So you were working ridiculously long hours and then recharging your batteries by putting alcohol into it.
Basically.
I know that feeling. Yeah. Sounds crazy when you say it like that, but that's how, when you're working those hours, you just need a bit of a stress relief sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I had, so I've got an older daughter with my ex-wife here, and so, she was born in 2010. She's got severe learning difficulties, and so I had all of those challenges. That's probably one of the biggest challenges in my life. I was down in Great Ormond Street, every couple of 3 months. So that was all going on. We hadn't actually had a diagnosis properly then, and we were moving the business, and it was just the pressure. Yeah. But I thrived in it. In looking back, I don't know how I dealt with it, but it was.
And people don't see this. You're going into work, and everything, like you said about the guy that had the car lot off. You see him rocking up at 9 o'clock and leaving at 4, and you think, oh, he's got an easy life. But people don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
No, he had he's got a disabled daughter as well, and when he got home, he had to deal with. And I think that that it really, everyone has their different pressures, and I think that it's your baseline. I look at it now as my baseline pressure. Yeah. So you've got a pressure you can't get rid of. You can't. Yeah. It's never going to go away, which is how your how your family's made up, how you that sort of thing, and then you choose to put everything in above.
I look at it. I describe it as a scale of like 1 to 100 or something like that, and my limit's 75. Yeah. So my base level might be 20. There's always stresses around, and so normally if something small happens that adds 2% stress, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if I get to 74% and something that's 2% happens, that can be enough to crack you sometimes. So I was chatting to
the guy that I owned the football club with last night, and we've just got access to the bank account after 2 months of buying the club, and we were talking about that, and he said, "Carl, there's been a lot going on, isn't it?" I said, my dad's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, so that's been quite challenging.
Yeah.
I've been sitting up in America, so that's been challenging. We've struggled with visas and all sorts, but we finally got there. EMJ, we've got to keep it ticking over and make sure that's looking after itself. And then you buy
to get the mothership.
It's very easy to get distracted with the other stuff. And then we bought a football club, and you got all this. So all of this happening at the same time. I can feel my stress levels are probably about 74.5 at the moment, most of the time. But you have to deal with it, don't you? You just get on with it.
Yeah. Yeah, until you can't, which what happened to me last year.
Yeah. So you've just moved the plant.
Yeah.
You've just collapsed in the pub.
Just collapsed in the pub.
Did that set any alarm bells off, or was that just it's just happened?
At the time, it was it's just happened. But I do remember thinking, that hitting a limit is. I remember feeling weirdly. I remember thinking, that's quite cool. Actually, I've hit my limit. Because I was younger, didn't really care as much, but didn't realise it would quite have an effect on me later on in life. But obviously, it's always been in the back of my head, Sam. You've got a limit. You've hit it. Well done. Congratulations to you. But let's not go there again. And
so did you consciously do things to reduce that limit you were at?
I think back then, now, all the time. But don't think back then. I think I first consciously did things to sort of rejuvenate myself and what's the word? There's a better word than that. But
recharge the batteries.
There's things I constantly do to recharge the batteries. As of I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. When I was hitting my ceiling too much. So go back to then. So 2000. So we moved the plant. Then we had a big site in Chelmsford, and we had to make it work. Employed our first employee on firewood in 2013. Did a couple of years. Then we ended up getting. We were speaking to JCB. I had good relationships in JCB. Again, we talked about leverage earlier. So we were buying JCBs, which then put me in an office in the factory, which put me on a helicopter with Sir Bamford, which then allowed me to give him our firewall brochure, which then he told the guys in the factory to listen to us. So then we got a system installed on the factory. We gave it to them for free. No one knew that. Right, so we then took a load of pictures and told the rest of the industry that we're now, that we've at JCB, and that gave us a leverage to just keep moving. So we did that for a couple of years, and then we were buying the product from a UK manufacturer, and it just wasn't where we wanted the product to be. We knew there was better. We knew we could give our customers better. So in 2015, Ed and I were scratching our head, and we thought we've got to either start our own manufacturing facility or we need to buy a company. We literally walked into a fire show, and there was a little family business there, and we ended up we basically said to them that we wanted to use their products and swap the company we were using to them. And when they turned up in our office, we said, we just want to buy you. And his words were, give me £1 million and I'll walk. And then me and Ed looked at each other and went, now we know what we've got to go and do. We've got to go and find £1 million. So that was the most pinnacle part of where we sit now. We now have 3 businesses in 2016: Dunmo, Firewood, and Reacton. Never manufactured anything before in our life. Luckily, Ed understands pretty much everything, so he got his head down into manufacturing. And
so how are you spending your time? Are you splitting it a third, or have you got people in running them for you and you're overseeing it? Or
at this point, honestly, just running around there was no splitting of time. We were just running from doing one everything. To the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. Both me and Ed were like crossing over. And we are.
What roles did you both have? Did you have a job title in those? So you were just doing a bit of everything.
Together we work so well, and I don't quite know why, but you've got like the vision side from me, but Ed understands the vision and also has his own vision, but he's also extremely technical. but also gets quite deep into subjects. So he'll go and fix something, and then I'll look at it and go, I think that's just about fixed enough, Ed, and can you come and help me over here? And so together we'd do that. And I mean, I remember it was in 2015 when we were buying the company. We did something like 30,000 miles in my car. We were always in the car together. So we had these two businesses, and we were always in the car. Yeah. So, it was, you know, you kind of erase some of that stuff out of your memory, don't you? How hard you actually worked to get there, and then. So then we bought the manufacturing business in 2016, and then there was loads of issues with it. We didn't buy a wrong, and I wouldn't take it back because we needed to understand about it. But it's there was so many issues. The way we run our systems, it didn't work. So that, and we just spent £1 million on it, and we had to literally run around while running the other two businesses. We just swapped our product line over from the manufacturer that worked but wasn't as good as we thought over to our own manufacturer that actually was not working very well. Yeah. So I'll never forget Ed. There was a problem with the valve, and Ed came in one morning and went, "I've solved it." And I mean, I would never have been able to solve that for the rest of my life. And he just basically put a tiny little check valve in the piston in our valve. And to this day, it's the absolute secret to our, you know, it's the recipes for the success. You know, the way our system works now is so versatile because of and we still use the same one. Yeah. We're on a few generations later, but the valve is phenomenal. Yeah. And we saw, Ed was very much with me, but I just wanted to take on the big boys. I wanted to take on Ansell. Ansell's the biggest fire suppression company in the world for vehicles, and I wanted to take them on.
And what sort of size would they be?
It's actually a good question. I don't know where.
10 times bigger than you, twice as big as you, 100 times bigger than you?
Like hundreds.
Yeah, okay.
They do, I think.
But that was the vision, was to take on them.
Yeah, they were in every single country in the world.
Right, okay.
They were market leaders in the UK. We took them out the UK. Yeah. They were, and we knew when Firewood took them out the UK, we knew that we had a recipe to go and do that. So that was ultimately it. And then there's another 2 or 3, but that was the early goal. And we see the vision playing out.
Yeah. So you talked today about being an entrepreneur and wanting to be an entrepreneur. I've worked with people. I've known people, and I've done podcasts with people where they've set up one business, and it's more to prove a point that they can do it again. They've wanted to go on another business, set up other businesses, and it was a bit like that for me. I didn't ever want to be an entrepreneur. I just had an idea, and then it was like, well, actually, now I've done that, it'd be quite good if I could prove that I can do it more than once. And I get bored quite easily, so I want to do different stuff. But a lot of the time, it's because there's a bit of a chip on the shoulder. For me, I want to prove myself. Yeah. So, is there something like that what drives you on to want to be an entrepreneur? And is that still driving you on? Do you want to have 5, 6, 7, 8 businesses, or is 3 a good place to be?
So, I was wondering when you were going to get round to this question. Like I touched on before, the last 2 years have been a massive change for me, and I think that it's quite an exciting place to be, because what did drive me and the chip on my shoulder was my dad. Yeah. And I remember, give you an example, and it still winds me up inside to this day. I remember saying to him one year, we in the early days of Skips, we're going to do £1.7 million this year. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, well, you'll probably do about 1.5. Yeah. I'm like, what? How do you base, like, how do you, but I don't know, none of the response didn't make sense to me, but it worked, and I was like, no, I'm not even doing 1.7 now. I'm smashing through that just to show you. So I remember, because
what do the skips do now?
25 million now.
Yeah, so. It definitely worked, didn't it? It definitely worked.
And I think...
I don't think you'll get to 30 though.
Oh, for God's sake. The thing is, in all honesty, what I've learned now in the last couple of years is I know now I can.
Yeah.
If I put my mind to it, I can do it. It's now a case of, having the year that I had last year with mental health, etc. I've really reevaluated my life, and and I'm just looking at what actually makes me happy. I was thinking on the way up here. I remember, I don't know, this was we were in Little Dunmow at this time. It must have been about 2010. And me and Ed, I remember sitting in the office, and we had a PA at the time, Taz, and we were having a bit of a laugh, and we said, what do you want in the future to her? And I remember she turned around and said, I just want to be happy. And me and Ed pissed ourselves laughing. And we were like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just be, because we're in the rat race. And it just stuck with me. And now, if you say to me, what do you want? I just say, I just want to be happy. It's ironic that I laughed back then. And so now, my journey now is very much finding out what actually makes me happy. Yeah. Not what I think other people think I should do. Yeah. Not what, not what I thought I wanted to be. I want to, when I was younger, I wanted a collection of cars. Yeah.
You've got quite a nice collection of cars as well.
Yeah.
I've seen a few of them.
I mean, a big collection. And I wanted, Ferrari, I wanted the 308, the 328, the 348, the 355. I wanted them all lined up. Yeah. And do you know what? I couldn't think of anything more aggro right now. Yeah. Because I've got one in the UK that I bought when I was 30. I've had it 10 years now. And I can't bring myself to sell it, but it's aggro. Yeah. And I know that it's like a weight, and I'm so torn over it. But I know if I focus on that, I think that just having another one, I just think no, I'm not going to do it. So, what makes me happy? My daily now. Yeah. My family, my kids, and that's what I living in Dubai is fantastic. My morning routine makes me happy.
So just tell us about moving out there. When did you move out there and why?
So I moved out there in July 22. Yeah. There's 3 or 4 reasons why. I think I was destined to leave the UK from a young age. I was that type of person that I'll go to Spain for the week and then I'd want to live there, and then I'd go to Portugal and I want to live there, and I think that you know what I mean. Yeah.
I want to live in Miami at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anywhere I went, I'm like, I can see myself here. So I've obviously been destined to leave the UK, and again, a challenge in my life. I don't want to be the person that stays. Just me personally, I don't want to be the person that stays. I want the challenge of being an expat. I want to understand what it's like. So we actually set the business up in Dubai and in Arizona, in Phoenix in 2019, late 2019, just before COVID. That was really well timed. And that was a huge challenge because we'd set it up and we'd got people on big money running them. Yeah. So we set them up. Dubai was my baby. America was going to be Ed's. And so I was spending quite a bit of time in Dubai. As you know, it's easy to get backwards and forwards. So we set the business up. We were going to set it up. So we were actually going to take Fireward, a UK service installation business, over there. Yeah. And Reacton was going to supply firewood, and we were going to set the vans up and do it all ourselves. We employed someone out there. Didn't work out, and it just nothing happened for about 2 years. First 2 years. So I remember flying out there in, I think just as they lifted the ban, I was like, get on the plane with the family, get out there. And that was in I think it was November 21, and we got a phone call about 2 weeks before from a company over there and said, right, we're looking at protecting all the buses here, the school buses. We want to be market leader. I'm like, brilliant. Right, this is why I come out here 2 years ago. Yeah. But I was going out there to close it all down and reduce the costs and that. So I got out there on the family holiday. Didn't really have a family holiday. Worked nearly every day, setting up this deal, and then we won the contract for Emirates Transport, which was 2,000 school buses, wow. Which was a million, just over £1.5 million. That was only in a year, and I thought, I think I can be out here. The expat community is fantastic. The quality of life's good, and I needed a change. You know, I was going down the pub in the UK on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, and getting in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
it just wasn't. It was great fun, as you'd know. It's great fun doing that, but it wasn't fun in the morning when I had to confront the missus. It wasn't fun at night. It wasn't fun. There were so many things, and I think something inside me is just telling me you need to. Did
you feel you were not performing at your highest levels?
I wasn't performing. No, I felt like I was letting Ed down, because I was the guy that was always out, always meeting people, always drunk.
Yeah.
Didn't drink daily, just when I went out, just couldn't stop.
Yeah. Well, this course I was in Miami, one of the presenters said, there's this, you live by all these phrases that your parents teach you, and don't talk to strangers. And he's like, well, if you're not talking to strangers, how do you sell your product? And he was like, money can't buy you happiness. He said, but you can't go into the bank and pay your mortgage with happiness. He said, so my definition of happiness is freedom.
100%.
Which you said a minute ago earlier. And he said, I can do what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want, with who I want, and all of these. So well, let's you touch on you haven't drunk for well over a year now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, I enjoy it. So I don't count because I do really enjoy it. It was I think the second week of September. So where are we now? End of September. So just over nearly 13 months.
So the first time I met you was at a Braintree football match.
Yeah.
And you were stood there with a beer, and I was stood there with a beer, and we were chatting away. So what changed? What went from being out till 2 o'clock in the morning till not drinking for a year?
So, when I left the UK, went over to Dubai, you get all excited, as you normally do, and there's always an excuse to drink.
Yeah.
Like, always, and when I got over there, I was obsessed over getting a friendship group, because I didn't really realise at the time. Someone said, "Oh, do you know loads of people over there?" I thought, "No, we just went. I didn't even know." And you think that me and the missus get on really well, and we're kind of obviously husband and wife, but best friends as well. And I didn't really think about it. We're just going to go over there and create a new life. And
hey, when you went, did you say this is forever, or for a year, or just to see what happens?
Don't want to go back and I think when we left there, the glitz of Dubai was like, right, I'm staying here forever. I think now, after a couple of years, you realise, again, when you're really looking at what makes you happy, you look around and think there may be better places to live for me, depending on what I want in my life, but I do stand it. I do think it's the best place in the world to live right now, but going back to what sort of caused me to stop, I think, is that the question?
Yeah, so you moved over there, you don't know how long you're going to be there, but it's a long-term plan.
Yeah.
And you're going out making friends by boozing.
Yeah.
What makes you suddenly stop boozing?
That's right. So when I moved over there, it's all very, all very excited, and you're out there boozing and going to beach clubs and going this, that, and the other, spending loads of money, that I realised that I didn't really have, which was the start of quite a bit of pressure. So when you go out there and you have a few beers, if I've had like 5 or 6 beers, I'm a millionaire, and it doesn't matter what the bill is, and I'll get it. Or, and I'm starting to build more and more pressure on myself. So I was living with anxiety. I was living with anxiety from pretty much the second I woke up in the morning to the second I went to bed at night, and that was something that had been building over the years, and I just got used to.
Yeah.
that was my life. I didn't, and sometimes and I would constantly walk around like this and stretching it out, and she'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just fucking so bad." So anxiety was just part of my life. And then I started to get. Then my head started spinning when I was driving. And I'm thinking, shit, what's going on here? And then after drink, it would then, and then I started feeling a little bit down. So then I'm starting to think a little bit like, I'm starting to have bad thoughts. And it's just a slippery slope from there, to be honest. And then I would use drink to get out of it. I remember I actually quit for 2 months before properly. And I was on the Etihad golf day. At the creek the creek golf course, and I think I'd had 10 beers before I'd come off the golf course, and then I didn't get in until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I remember waking up the next day and going, "That's me done. I can't keep doing this." And I felt really bad. I felt down, and I thought, I'm going to knock it on the head. So I did a couple of months, started feeling better. And then a friend of mine was throwing their annual party, and he basically said, "Oh, you need to drink." I had so much pressure on me. You need to drink. So you probably won't want to put this in there, but actually don't put this in there. But I had a blonde moment in my life, and I said, "I'm going to go to the party. I'm only going to drink tequila." I'm not going to drink beer because I'm a beer monster. I'm only going to drring tequila. But what happened after 5 tequilas? I'm drinking fucking flaming this and flaming that and everything. I didn't give a shit. But then I've just got that personality. I can't stop. And then I got back into the going out again at night. And then, a friend of mine, you'd say, "Oh, should we go out for a beer or play golf in the morning?" And then I'd get in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, and then on a Saturday, we'd go out Friday night, I'd go out with the missus, we're both similar, and Saturday would be, in the living room, curtains closed, kids on the iPads, and I think I was just, where I've got that, learning, growth mindset, I'm looking around going, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this. I want better for myself. I want better for my family. And where's this leading? And then that was then. I then got to the point where I'm thinking all of that. I'm starting to think dark thoughts, and then I think I talked myself into kind of a depression. I then couldn't get out of bed. Didn't really care about work. Nothing really mattered, and that's really where I found myself in the darkest place.
And what was happening to your business? You're not going into work, and that's just
not
running
really.
itself. But
I'm now fully focused on me. Because I'm now thinking, shit, I'm in a bad.
I'm in
trouble here. You start thinking. I remember thinking, like, getting to the point where I'm thinking, what's the point? What is the point in this? I've done all of this all my life. I've worked hard. What's the point? Do I actually getting to the point where do I actually want to be here? Kind of thing. And then I'm like, fucking sort yourself out. So, and I'm thinking, I didn't want to. I'm thinking, I never thought I'd be feeling these thoughts. And then you feel a bit useless because your wife, who you think has to look up to you, kind of thing, is looking at you, and you're in bed and you don't want to get out, and you're thinking these thoughts, and you're thinking, I can't. I don't know which way to turn. So then it's hard because you kind of get yourself further and further because I remember she's like, "You doing anything today?" And I'm laying in bed. I'm like, no, and I'm feeling even more useless. And I'm on my own in my head out in Dubai. I've got no support network in I had a couple of friends that did looked out for us out there, but I had no support network in the UK, which was my whole life up to that point. And then I realised, I just thought to myself, what do I need to do? Because I can't keep thinking these thoughts. I'm gonna go and get the best help I possibly can.
Yeah.
So I went and found a life coach. I went and found a psychiatrist, and I went and found one that dealt with a lot of the like the PwC guys that have been in London all their life, and you know, come out and done all sorts, and split up with their wife. And I'm going to go to someone that really knows.
Yeah, been there and done it, sort of thing.
Yeah, so I went and saw him, and I knew I had to rebuild my life from that point, step by step by step.
Yeah.
But I did feel very alone.
Was there a specific thing that made you think, right, I've just got to snap out of this. I've got to go and see a life coach and a psychiatrist, and also.
I've always had business coaches, and I've had life coaches before, and I've had people that I talk to. It was the way I picture it in my head. I tried to snap out of it.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, so the worst week I had, I thought to myself, Jesus, Sam, sort yourself out. I got up, I thought, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to sort it out. I went to work Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday 6 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday I broke.
Yeah.
Like properly broke.
Yeah.
So I thought, I can't snap myself out of this.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Like, I physically cannot do it. So the only way I saw it going forward is piece by piece by piece.
Yeah.
And it was. I'm at the bottom, and I need to go piece by piece by piece.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I'm going to get out. Because honestly, snapping myself out of it just wasn't working. So that was the start of the journey, and I realised that if I think I'm going to do that on alcohol, I'm nuts.
Yeah.
Like it was honestly, it was like the wrong. If you couldn't have got any more crazy thoughts. If I can't rebuild my life if I'm drinking.
Yeah.
So that was a decision.
That was your decision, or was that advice you got from these people, or a bit of both?
So when I went in, the first time I went in to see the guy I saw in the psychiatrist guy, the first thing he said to me is, "Do you want to quit alcohol?" And I just went, "No."
Yeah.
Don't ask me that again.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't in my mind at that point in time.
Yeah.
I thought at that point in time, I thought I'm going to solve it with my life, which is drinking. And then quickly I realised that I was being nuts and it wasn't going to happen. So that was, and then he made me think, and I've got another, Will Polston. So Will doesn't drink. I've got another very, very good, one of my best mates, Dan Wiley. He doesn't drink. And I've got a good support network around me that don't drink. And I've looked at them thinking, this could be the way forward for me. Yeah.
Well, look, Sam, thanks for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks for opening up about that, and it certainly opened my eyes up and given me a lot of food for thought. Really appreciate that, and good luck with the future.
Thanks for having me, mate. It's been really good.
Great stuff.